Time now for The Clash. And Suella Braverman is reportedly receptive to the idea of upgrading cannabis to a Class A drug amidst concerns it has become a gateway. A source told the Sunday Times that the Home Secretary is alarmed at evidence linking the drug to mental health issues and believes scaring people through proper deterrence is crucial to cutting its popularity among teenagers. But Braverman is also said to be conscious of the extra pressure a change to the classification of cannabis would heap on already stretched police forces. In Downing Street today played down the reports, saying the government has no current plans to change the law relating to cannabis. But what do you think? Is Suella Braverman right to consider making gateway drug cannabis a Class A? Send me your thoughts to Dan at GBNews.uk. Tweet me at GBNews while you're there. Go and vote in our poll. The results shortly, but help you make your mind. Doing battle tonight, let me bring in former professional darts legend Bobby George, who investigated this topic for a major TV documentary called Gone to Pot. The author, lawyer and broadcaster Rebecca James, and conservative woman editor Kathy Gingell. So, Bobby George, I have to say I love you, but I completely disagree with you on this. I have seen, Bobby, so many lives in my own circles ruined by marijuana. Just completely destroyed, Bobby.
Well, I've done a programme for ITV called Gone to Pot. I went to America for 3 weeks, and I've been round marijuana for years, but a lot of people smoke it. I never bothered. I went there, I'm doing a documentary on it, so I tried every joint you can think of. I was high as a kite for 3 weeks. Quite enjoyable. But the government actually grow it there. So you've got no pesticides in it, it's grown properly. It tastes nice. They even got a smell of lemon, not that horrible smell. But the trouble is with marijuana, there's people growing it, and they're mixing stuff with it. They're growing it and they're putting pesticides on it, and it's not good for your system. But if the government grow it, it's good. Now, if the government grew it, right, and they said you've got to be 21 to have it, when you've got a snake, you cut its head off, it's poisonous, don't you, to get rid of the snake, so it doesn't hurt you. Well, if the government grew it and they actually controlled it properly, it would stop all the gangsters, whatever you want to call it, drug barons, bringing it in the country, making it, it stops that. And that's why they've done it in America. So the politicians saying they should make it a Class A drug, they want to go to America, because America's miles in front of us with the drugs. And there's, I don't know, 18 or 19 states now that's legal.
Yeah, but Rebecca Jane, in my view, just because America's doing it doesn't mean it's the right thing.
Well, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm only saying what I see. When I went to America, I met a lady with she had breast cancer. She had it taken away. She got it back. They went to a herbal specialist, which is a marijuana doctor. She had it, and it went. And she called
look, let me be clear.
She called it the plant alive.
Let me be clear. For medicinal purposes, I have always said I'm in support. But Rebecca Jane, my concern is that if you go down this path of wanting to legalise marijuana, actually, what's next? You'll end up being able to buy cocaine, heroin and ecstasy tablets and boots within 20 years' time. No, Rebecca, I say we get tough on the scourge of drugs. Why not make it a Class A?
Dan, I think this is the first time I've ever disagreed with you.
Well,
in 2 years. I don't think so. Unfortunately, I am completely and utterly on Bobby's side. If you actually make this legal, you're going to take it out of the hands of criminals. You're going to make it safer. I think that when it's criminalised, that's when you get the problems. But also, you know, there is a financial aspect to this for me. So I've done a little bit of research for you. So it would actually save us 400 million in policing. Do you not think, Dan, that our police forces have got bigger issues to be concerning themselves about than people taking cannabis?
No, because I see what drugs do to people. And marijuana, I am convinced, because I have seen it in my own life, is a gateway drug to harder drugs. And Kathy Gingell, marijuana as well, actually, if you look at people on marijuana, you know, they become less able to contribute to society. And Kathy, this idea that somehow dope is not addictive, again, I just don't believe it, because I see lots of people who had very bright futures who end up sitting at home all day, every day, smoking pot, watching the TV, eating eating food, and all of a sudden they're not contributing to society at all. So, Kathy, do you agree with me that this needs to become a Class A drug?
I do entirely. I heard so many myths from the other two so far this evening that I'm not quite sure where to begin, except for bravo for Braverman for being the first Home Secretary courageous enough to take on what's been a scourge in our society for years, in which we've abandoned generations of young children to no hope because, as Dan says, kids are affected, their executive functioning's affected, we haven't protected them, and enough youth goes to psychosis. The big studies show the mental health issue is huge. Our mental health wards are full of people who are cannabis addicted. This is it is not a benign drug, and there is very little cannabis around that's low THC nowadays. It's high. An American study says America's full, and by the way, it's a capitalist industry in America. The government doesn't do it. The government is meant to regulate it, but in different states like Colorado, it's in free fall, and the problems have gone up, and the top doctors in America have only published last week reports saying that the spike in psychosis and all those problems is getting higher and higher, and that's with THC 10%. I've talked to Dutch police enforcement people saying you can get THC 16% and that classifies as a hard drug. We have wrecked poor children, the most disadvantaged children's lives we have failed to protect, and don't tell me there's no relationship between cannabis use, psychosis and stabbings. The evidence all points in that direction.
Bobby, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think, I mean, look, you go in London, if you want a joint, you get a joint in London easier than you can park your car. That's how many people are actually on it. There's loads of people I know that smoke it. They don't get nasty. They're not crackheads. They have a smoke. Everyone I've been with always having a laugh and a joke with it. You mean you just sit indoors and smoking it, and then you've got a problem. You've had something else in it to make you do that. And mental health is just an excuse to get on the pot and not go to work. So I don't agree with that. I think
Rebecca Jane?
that if they'd done it legally, it'll be better. And if they say right for medical reasons as well, that's most important. I mean, a lot of people, seizures, 50 seizures a day, took marijuana, bit in their food, so for the doctors, describing how much to take. Just one in a month.
Rebecca Jane, you want to come in?
If you said to that woman, you can't have that, what do you think she'd say to you? It doesn't work for everyone, but it's still very good for medical purposes. That is the most important thing.
Can I just put in a point here? So we're talking about mental health. I don't know if obviously, is it Kathy? Sorry.
Kathy.
I don't know if you know my... Thank you. I don't know if you know my background, but I actually look after the mental health of 30,000 people up and down the UK. I triage people on a daily basis, and let me tell you now, when I actually see those triage cases and what people come to us for their mental health problems and their reasons, marijuana is virtually never on there. I'll tell you.
Well, it doesn't help, does it, Rebecca?
That's very interesting, because I also researched this area for 1.5 years, actually, for an earlier Conservative Party, and went to nearly every drug tab around the country, and found that the most denied source of problems with addiction problems was cannabis use, and because it's addictive in itself. And if you just look at the stats from the major psychiatric British survey that's done, it comes very high on the number of cases of people.
Well, Rebecca, surely you wouldn't recommend
mental health
But Rebecca, surely you're not going to recommend it to these poor kids who are having mental health problems. What are you going to say? I'll go and smoke some joints and life is going to be better. No, it's going to be worse.
I am not going to wholeheartedly recommend it for children.
I hope
Absolutely not. That's a completely different story.
Goodness.
All I'm
then why
telling you is that you can do all of your research and all of your studies and all the rest of it. But this is my day-to-day job. I look after thousands of people. It's not an issue that comes up. You're completely not even talking to me about the point of alcohol. And actually, that's far more damaging than marijuana.
Can I just say something? First of all, thank God, cannabis is not widely used in this country. That's another myth.
Yeah, but legalise it and it will be.
It's a minority. Once you legalise it, it pushes the use. Yeah. And then if we had the same use of cannabis as alcohol, we wouldn't recognise society.
No, we wouldn't. We'd all be walking around like zombies. And you know what? This is why I just feel like we don't want to go down this path. We can't ban alcohol now, we understand that, but let's not create more issues in society. Bobby George, final word to you.
Well, like I said, in America, if kids, 20-year-olds, they're on the crack coke, up their nose, needle job, they put them in a building, safe building, they can't get out, swimming pools, everything in there, costs $60,000 a year, and how they get them off their heavy drugs, they give them marijuana.
Yeah, but what have they started with, Bobby?
So that is
usually marijuana. But look, I appreciate the debate. It was a very good one. That was former professional darts legend Bobby George, the lawyer and broadcaster Rebecca Jane, and the Conservative woman editor Kathy Ginchel. So who do you agree with on this? Is Suella Braverman right to back making cannabis a Class A drug? From Brian on Twitter, if cannabis should be a Class A drug, then alcohol and tobacco should be A+. From John, cannabis dealers should get a mandatory life sentence. I agree on that, actually. And from Matt, madness. I thought this government was about increasing personal freedom, small state, low tax, doubling down on the failed war on drugs. Makes no sense if that is their ideology. What do they stand for? And your verdict is now in. 43% of you agree that Suella Braverman is right to reportedly consider making cannabis a Class A drug, while 57% of you say she isn't. Wow. Bobby's just beaten me. God damn it. Not a good start to the week.